My brother and I used to play really avidly when red, blue, yellow were hot on the scene with the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. As the series went on, we alternated on who bought the extra game that set in the middle of each series. In this generation of game, I took the first turn with yellow while he played red. We had made it our mission to get every Pokemon and grind them up to stupidly high levels. It was our obsession and break from everything around us. About a year or so down the line, my brother began to grow bored. He started looking around for cheats in the game to make things a little more interesting. In his search, he found one of the many alleged methods on capturing a glitch Pokemon, Missingno, using the Cinnabar Island glitch. The post with this glitch came with a warning that it could corrupt the game data and cause it unusable with no fix other than deleting the save. Well, he ignored the warning, as it turned out to be completely wrong anyways. We were glad at the time, and we wanted to see what fun could be had with this. After following the guide steps and, a few bad attempts at capture, he finally got a hold of this little old glitch. He quickly found the first of his quirks along the way, the item cloning, which at the time covered his hyper potions. The moveset was also weird. It had 2 sets of water gun in the first 2 attack slots. The other attack, I can't remember. It was a while ago, and we were just kids. Jumping forward quite a while later. After messing around with Missingno in the Pokemon Stadium, which gave him the substitute doll model as a placeholder, we decided to look back at our old saves and try to finish our mission. But first, a link battle. The main contender to beat was his Missingno. About halfway into the fight, he decided to let out the monstrous glitch, so my forces fell quickly. Soon, I was left with just Machamp, which for me was strange. I'd never usually have one in the party. First rounds of attacks came and he used his second water gun on the list. I gave him a painfully weak tackle. I thought Machamp was going to faint in a single move, but something odd happened at this point. Both Missingno and Machamp's bar began to fluctuate rapidly. Both Pokemon had all status effects set at once. The sprites for the status effects mangled together into one space, flashing through one another like you'd see in intersecting models in a 3D game. After a moment of weirdness, my Machamp somehow managed to get his tackle in there, so the second round of attacks was on its way, and I had this terrible alarming sound of low health blaring in my ears. We both repeated attacks, and this was going to put an end to the strange battle. Missingno went first with his water gun, but after a short freeze rather than a faint, the sprites for both Pokemon changed. My Machamp resembled what would later be discovered to be Lugia from the second generation, and his Missingno looked like a Ho-Oh, which we only recognized from the intro. A couple seconds more of fluctuating health, and a very odd knockout scream. My now Lugia-sprited Machamp finally fainted. Except it said Wild Machamp has faded. Wild? This was my Machamp, and there were no wild Pokemon in Link battles? We were confused, but before we had time to figure it out, the Game Boy shut itself off mid-save. Figuring it was just a battery outage, we plugged them into the mains and switched back on. My Machamp had vanished from my party. And it just got weirder. It wasn't in my PC storage boxes either. I thought to myself, yeah, we shouldn't have done that, so I set out to find another Machamp to capture. But they just weren't appearing. We put it down to typical luck. A few weeks later, on a bored and empty day of near nothingness, I lounged around and watched as he played Pokemon on the TV screen using the Nintendo 64 connection. He decided he would adventure back into spaces with possible trainers that he might not have battled yet. He made his way to Lavender Town, found nobody, but on his way out he noticed something he didn't spot on the way in. A player sprite stood next to a tombstone. The character had my trainer name, and when spoken to it said, "My poor Machamp, I should never have let you into that battle. Please forgive me." This honestly creeped us out a little. His Missingno had apparently killed my Machamp, according to the new character in Lavender Town. And the closest link to this we could find were some images from the original comic, featuring such nasties as Arbok being cut in half with Slash and the zombie Psyduck. It was gruesome, and it firmly backed the idea that Pokemon could be killed. Although we didn't see how this should affect the games. My brother and I decided to get off the games for a while, but after a while my brother grew curious and decided to get on the game again. He loaded his save file and jumped on. After adventuring for a while, he decided there were no bugs. He checked his Pokemon, and there was still Missingno in his party. Oh, he kept playing. We were feeling pretty sure that was all the weirdness could be thrown at us. He looked for trainers he had not yet battled and eventually found his Missingno's second victim, an NPC trainer Growlithe. Following the same pattern as usual, When wiping out enemies, he just clicked away at the water gun until there was no Pokemon left to fight, the last being Growlithe. Again. Just like the Link battle, the game froze for a short moment before Growlithe fainted and again stated wild in the message. Spotting the pattern, he went straight to the tower. What he found was the player sprite still stood where he was, mourning the death of Machamp, and an unforgiving NPC trainer with random dialogues and 3 comments he would throw at you when spoken to. These were, "My poor sweet Growlithe, if only I knew you would be so cruel. What do you want? Leave me alone. How could you be so heartless?" This was about all he could let happen. He treated the game file like corruption, and overwrote his entire progress with a new save file simply to get rid of what was done. The negative reinforcement surely didn't help, seeing that this was in the series. It only added to the idea that deaths were originally made to be implemented into the game, but were later scrapped. As a side effect of Missingno's glitchy nature, somehow it re-triggered. Although the gameplay is normally perfect now, with 0 death tolls, those strange happenings are burned into our minds. We never thought the dark side of the Pokemon franchise could make its way seemingly into an innocent children's game, but it has been made apparent that it can.